Welcome to the Smart Connector podcast. I have a wonderful guest for you tonight, Oliver James. Great to have you here, Oliver.
Hi, Jane. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Oliver's a very interesting guy. He's actually a property marketing specialist, and we connected. We're both actually in a mastermind together, but we connected over the topic of marketing and brand, and he did an absolutely amazing presentation that I really loved. So I thought I've got to get this guy on a podcast because I have a business in property as well. And it really struck me when I went into the property sector as a whole, how people just they pay lip service to marketing, but a lot of people seem to just confuse marketing with sales, and they think that it's just about getting the databases and the CRMs and things. And there's so much more to it than that, really, isn't there, Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. And the talk that I presented at the mastermind was on the subject of the power of branding and how it can really help in your business. And
Yeah.
that's obviously just touching the surface on the power of marketing and what branding can do to help that along. So yeah, it's a real pleasure to be on and talk with you on your podcast. And I'm glad that we were able to meet from that presentation in the mastermind.
Yes, and one of the things that we're also going to look at, Oliver, is this thing about reputation and perception, and how you manage how the way that you manage relationships can affect your results, which of course is something else that I think is just so powerful and important. So that's something that really is very important to you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's something that's so overlooked. It's incredible how people, and I think this is the same in all businesses, but especially in property. And that's ultimately why I started the business, property branding, was because I was obviously networking with lots of other property investors and property professionals. And when I was obviously given a business card from multiple different people, I was thinking, it's a professional service and they're presenting themselves in a very poor light. Then they can do much better job at how they're presenting themselves. And that's ultimately how you perceive it, how I was perceiving them in their service. They were handing over a very cheap, flimsy, poorly created business card. And I know business cards are obviously a small element in your marketing, but it's often the first point of call that you'll see with someone, if it's someone that you meet new. So every single part of the touch process, 7 touch points. We'll talk about that obviously in a little bit, but it all stemmed from that really. And I realized that in property, so many people were just completely overlooking how they're coming across. And it's all about trust and credibility, and obviously in property, and it often fall over the first hurdle with many property businesses.
Yeah, so I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit in this interview because, I think that both of us are quite like-minded in this respect, but I'm going to ask some of the questions that perhaps people might have asked to you when you say marketing is important in property, the way that your brand is perceived, the way that other people think about you. So I'm going to say, first of all, why does it really matter? Isn't property just about houses and just about buying houses?
Yeah, I love this. I love this topic because I do get it a lot. I do get it from a lot of people I speak to, from clients and so on. And you do hear, I've got a great word of mouth. So people coming to me rather than having to go to anyone else. So why would I need to focus on the marketing? But the answer there is it may be fine for the time being, but you can't can't put all your eggs in one basket where right now it could be okay and that might dry up. But if you're looking to raise a large a pot of money to fund a property deal or whatever the business deal is, then you need to have that profile, that level of credibility that's going to help you then branch out to various other avenues. So having a small, close network of just word of mouth, that's only going to do you so well. But if you want to scale up the business, then you do need to focus on your marketing and have that in place and have a strategy to be able to then attract bigger fish and go more nationwide if you're looking to go, depending on what your business is or what you're looking for. But go nationwide, could go continental, or even worldwide. And starting from this, starting out, focusing on your marketing and how you're putting yourself across, it is really important from the get-go.
Yes. So obviously it helps if you're looking for investors, because one of the first things that investors do is they go and check you out, don't they? And so they'll look at your social media profile and they'll check you out in, they'll see if you've got a website, and they want to see what projects you've been involved in and what experience you've got and all of those things, because without that, they wouldn't invest in you, right? But is it also important if you're looking for deals, for example? Does that matter? Should you have the same website if you're looking for investors as if you're looking for deals, for example?
So you wouldn't have the same website. The message that's being put across on your website, would be different. The content that'd be on there would be different, and ultimately the call to action so would be different. So the structure of the site, would vary on what it is that you're looking to achieve from that site. But you still do need a website. You still do need that online presence, that connection to your social media, to a brochure you may put, to your business card if you're doing face-to-face networking. All that needs to be connected and have that clarity between. Otherwise, if there's some sort of miscommunication there, then that credibility is going to dampen, and you're going to lose a little bit of credibility because they're not going to necessarily know if it's the right person, or if your website's really poor, but then you're posting it on social media a lot, then they're not necessarily going to know exactly that it's the right business, or if I do trust this person because they haven't got a website or so on. The website is really powerful, and as property investors, that is often the conversation that I don't need a website, but the answer is you do, because of so many reasons of having that online presence is key.
Yeah, that's great. Now we've got quite a few comments and questions already coming in in the chat, and I'd just like to refer to one of them, if that's okay with you, Oliver. So Rajesh says, "Hi Jane, this is the main issue or challenge that I currently have with getting real estate agents, business owners, and entrepreneurs via social media." Estate agents, so real estate agents, business owners, and entrepreneurs. Okay. So how do you attract the attention of estate agents if you're in property?
So you need to know what their pain points are. So really getting to grips with the estate agent in this case, and know what it is that they're looking for. So once you know that, then you can really think about what the pain points are and then address them, so that you're then basically telling them, what they want to hear. So you're grabbing their attention, because on social media, you're constantly scrolling. And I can't remember the stat now, but I think most people every day are equivalent of scrolling the Empire State Building. You're scrolling, your thumb's doing a lot of work. It's incredible. So the amount of content that's going through your brain, every second is vast. So you want to be able to stand out. And by standing out, you'll be able to target their pain point or their subject that they're thinking about, or a problem that they're encountering, and that's going to make you stand out. So that's straight away you're going to then potentially get in their mind. So if your brand is appealing to them, or it does something to them that would remember you, next time they see you, they might get a little bit closer to getting in touch. And it's constantly sort of pounding them with saying, yeah, I'm here. I know what your problem is. I know what you need. And second, third, fourth, or whatever time they see you, they're going to be more likely to get in touch.
Yeah, and I think that thing about layering is quite important, isn't it, Oliver? So it's, yes, if they see you face to face, that's great, but quite often they might think, that guy was kind of interesting. I'm going to check him out online. And then they see something interesting on your website and they think, oh, I hadn't thought about things that way. And then they think, oh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to look at this. And then maybe if you put some videos on there or something like that, do you think it really matters to actually use video, for example, in your marketing? Do you think that makes a big difference?
Video is very important, and that's definitely where a lot of social media content is going, is a lot more of the video based. And the reason it's so strong is because you can really tell from someone, and you're getting to see their voice, how they put points across, and you can really get to know them a bit better, well, a lot better than you can from a still.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely does help with that. And the type of content that you can be putting out could be, doing a property viewing and then saying what it is that you're looking for. So you share a bit of knowledge that way. And people do often stop scrolling if they see a video that could be relevant to them, which you cannot do if it's just a still. If it's designed really well, you may have a bit better chance in grabbing an attention, but there's only so much value you can give from a still and from the bio. But if it's a 30-second video, a 2-minute reel, or whatever it may be, there's so much more value that you can provide in that video as opposed to a still. So yeah, video is, I see, a really crucial part of the content that should be created.
Yeah. Now, Rajesh has said that one way that he's personally found very helpful is posting content about his stories when he was an estate agent. So stories are a good way, aren't they, to cut through the noise? So any tips on using stories, Oliver?
Stories, yeah, it's more of the raw content. It's sort of the undercover, under the cover, sort of getting to know you a bit more in person, a bit more personality, sharing the good as well as the bad. And I think people do want to see the bad quite a lot, to see what it is that you're going through, but most importantly, you're doing to be able to overcome that. And I think that's where stories work really, really well, because might not be something that you'd want to share on your feed, because it might be as polished, or you don't want to necessarily share, I've just trapped my hand in this door whilst I've been doing this viewing. But it's quite engaging content that you'd want to see for a 10-second clip on your story. And how you deal with that might show a bit of your personality. And you might think, oh, this guy, I share the same values as him, I share the same personality type as him. But you won't want to post that on your feed.
Yeah, I mean, I often say with stories that people, they love a happy ending. So I think one of the things that people love about stories is when you take them down, it was like, oh, this awful thing happened to me, but then you take them up again because it had a happy ending. And that very, very much inspires people, because we all have challenges, don't we? And, we all have ups and downs. And I think when you hear about somebody else's ups and downs, and I think it's quite powerful. So Rajesh was also asking about live videos. Oliver, do you recommend lives as a way of cutting through the noise?
Lives are great, and it works very well with the Facebook algorithms. So Facebook want you to create lives so that it boosts your algorithms. The reason being is because then it's more engaging. People want to see you're doing a thing right now, so they can comment on it, much like Rajesh is doing now. We're able to engage with Rajesh even though we're not in the same room or in the same vicinity or wherever he is. So you can have a much more engagement that to be able to boost your reach a lot further. So yeah, they are very, very effective, and obviously they can then become a video after the live's been finished. So they do help a lot. And interestingly, going back to your previous point actually about story, and this is something that I always tell clients, especially when creating content and when we create content for our clients, is building that story. And it could be a recurring story every week or throughout the 2 weeks. And there's a wonderful book by Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand, where it is effectively having a storyline throughout. So you start off with obviously the problem, really engaging or really capturing that attention of this is the problem, and then coming in as the guide to be able to say, you know, I understand your problem, we empathize with that.
Yeah.
And then it shows you that you're overcoming it, and then you position yourself as the person that is the one that can really help with that problem. And then you're showing, obviously, more and more of a happy story towards the end. So that story element to it, yeah, it does really, really help in building content, but also throughout all marketing. So it could be a brochure, it could be your website. And I think that's, yeah, critical for having someone engaged, but also keeping their attention and wanting to know more as well.
Yeah, amazing. So what about marketing if you're a professional service provider then? Because, you know, the property industry is huge, isn't it? There are so many people who are, it's a real team industry. So I mean, I work in development. So if you think about all the different specialisms that are in development, there are project managers, there are surveyors, there are different types of surveyors. There are obviously all the construction, the main contractors, and all the, I mean, just tons and tons and tons of people, and all the subcontractors, all the different kind of specialisms, and the lawyers, and the accountants, and the this, that, the other. I mean, it's huge. Every single development project, and there are professional service providers everywhere. So if you are a professional service provider, how can you stand out to get the prime clients, the really good clients that you want? Because people do tend to be, they tend to really stick to what they know, don't they? I think in property, it can be, when I say cliquey, I don't mean in a bad way, but people, they build a tribe and then they kind of tend to stick to it, don't they? They're reluctant to go outside of that because of the risk, I suppose, of employing new people. So how would you stand out and actually break in to a new good client if you're a professional service provider in that business?
So I always say in this, branding is always the starting point. And I
Yeah.
think it should be the foundation, because branding isn't just a logo. A lot of people think that, right, I just need to get a logo, then that's me, that's my brand. But often, especially in property, and I think property is maybe one of the worst areas for it, because, you know, you're told go get a logo. So you may go to some online resource, not name any names, and then they're using a template that, you know, millions of other people have got as well, and it's typically a roof over the top of the business name, and then your business. And, you know, that's seen as the sort of go-to property logo, but it doesn't represent you or your business, your target audience, your values, or anything. And I think straight away that shows laziness in a way, actually. But there's a whole host of other branding that needs to be done, and it's all stemmed from really having clarity in what it is that you're looking to achieve, and also looking to help your customer, your client as well. But from there, I would say what would help stand out is obviously a good brand, but most importantly, I mentioned already, but not being lazy, not cutting corners, because talking about a property service, so let's focus on deal sourcing, for example. And deal sourcing is effectively a property professional who goes out, finds a property. It could be a 2-bed house or 3-bed house, a buy-to-let, and then they'll get a good deal on that by either reducing the price of it and securing that with the estate agent, and then effectively selling that to an investor, and then they take a fee for being able to do so.
Yeah.
Business model, really great business model, great service, and there's obviously a lot of people making a killing with it. But as a property investor and property professional myself, I've been working with a lot of deal sources and deal packages, and I see so many times people are just blending in by having a template logo, by really doing the bare minimum of just basically taking a photo of the property, putting the rough numbers on a Word document or a PowerPoint, and not really giving any real value to a potential investor, and then saying, you know, do you want this deal? Give me £3,000. So when I see that, you know, it's presented really, really badly. It's not structured in a way that is going to grab my attention, that's going to make me want to take action. So then, you know, you go do your due diligence, you look online, and their website's completely different to what they've done in the Word document. And you're thinking, this is a professional service. I need to trust this person. Their numbers are correct.
Yeah.
That they've done due diligence. And yeah, that really does put them down a huge peg, because I mean, I wouldn't personally invest in that. And I see so many times deal sources doing the exact same thing. You know, they send you some sort of document that's poorly presented, that they're cutting corners.
Yeah.
Especially for the fees that are involved as well. You know, you would expect a professional service for that sort of fee.
Yes,
so I think
you would.
I think standing out, if you were to stand out and actually, you know, have a proper brand that really captures the type of investor that you're looking to work with.
Yeah.
You know, you might send them a brochure that explains what it is that you do, where you operate, why you're looking at this type of property, and then you send over a well-presented deal that is actually structured in a way that's going to do all, you know, give it over headline figures, and present it really professionally, and as well as having a decent website. You know, they're going to be the main four marketing assets or marketing segments that's going to, in the eyes of an investor, is going to do a really powerful job in actually thinking, right, this guy knows what he's talking about. I like this deal. Let me give him a call because I'm potentially interested in it. Let's then carry the conversation on further. And I think that's going to really help stand out as a professional service.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, because, as you said, if somebody presents themselves in a sloppy and incongruent way, so as you said, if the brand looks different wherever you go, and if the message is not clear, then it says something about that person. It just is a bit like kind of turning up to a business meeting in a kind of, you know, crumpled old, you know, shirt with sweat with sweat marks under the arms or something like this. Just like, you don't really take that person very seriously, because image counts. It really does. And brand is all a part of your image, isn't it? Yeah. So we got another question here, which is something that I know people are always asking me for sure about LinkedIn, and how do you attract investors on LinkedIn? Because of course LinkedIn is it's the B2B platform, isn't it? It's where business people and professionals kind of hang out that are busy. They haven't got time perhaps to run around finding properties for themselves, and they can potentially you could potentially connect with them so that you can build your portfolio by offering them a really good return. So LinkedIn is the hunting ground, isn't it, for those types of investors? So what would you say, Oliver, in terms of how would you attract investors on LinkedIn? Any tips there?
Yeah, I think it can be, but it depends on how you deal with it, how you actually what you employ with your LinkedIn strategy.
Yeah.
And it is an incredibly powerful platform, and I think it is brilliant for doing exactly that if you do it right. But it's, like you mentioned, it's a platform for professionals, for businesses. So therefore, the wording that you use, the content that you use needs to be different than your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, whatever other social media platform. Each one has its specific goal. But with LinkedIn, I see so many times people just regurgitating a lot of the same content and using the same words, and that they're really diluting what it is that they're putting out. So I think what needs to be effective is actually thinking about what your LinkedIn, and see it as its own individual entity within the social media umbrella, and then really thinking about who it is that you're looking to attract, and what sort of content they're going to want to see as well. And again, it's the scrolling. So you want to stop the scroll. I also see so many times people are out doing outbound message reach, and they're trying to sell to you right at the start. And as business owners, there's business professionals and there's people who are, in various different levels of a job. They're trying to be sold to so many times, and the last thing they want is someone who's, trying to sell you a deal by just slipping into your messages. So I think it's all about building up the relationship, but giving something before you expect it back. And I think that's the most important part, is actually giving value. And the more value you give, the more likely someone's going to say, Oliver, let's have a chat, or Jane, let's have a conversation, because I love the podcast that you're putting out, and the subject that you're covering, is great. I've got an idea, or what I want to speak about, potential business idea I've got, and they're more likely then to actually engage with you if you're not selling to them. So yeah, it always be, don't sell, think about the content that you're putting out, and do it in a professional way, rather than just being lazy and regurgitating content.
Yeah, definitely. I actually I like to keep up to date with LinkedIn, because I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So I actually did a little bit of training myself last week, just to keep up to date with the latest algorithm changes, which of course they're changing all the time on social media. And Oliver and I, we're on this brand marketing mastermind. And so we're constantly learning about all the latest updates and changes and everything like that on social media, which is really, really important, because that landscape is changing. So LinkedIn, the advice that I was given was, just don't pitch to people in the DMs at all. Just connect with them and refer to the things that they might have said in their posts or their articles or whatever, and just get on their radar by talking about them. And then once you're on their radar, you should post consistently about the things that you're doing. If it's in property, for example, if you're looking to get investors, then you post about your deals, or you post about your activities, or you post about the property market. And I think the people that do that really, really consistently, they do build up a following. And I've noticed that I've got plenty of people, and very consistently what their posts are going to be about. There's one guy, he posts about the property market every single day, and he's an accountant, so it's all very data driven and very statistical, which of course a lot of people find really interesting. And then other people that I know, that one guy, he's actually one of my clients, but he's a building surveyor, and he posts every single day about building defects. I actually love his posts. I find them so interesting. So I think that thing about be very present and very consistent, but don't slide into the DMs on LinkedIn, because apparently the average number of spammy messages people get every day, but particularly if they're in corporate, is around 12. That's a statistic I heard. Right. Can you believe it? 10, 12 pitches a day.
Yeah.
So how are you going to stand out? By not pitching, by actually talking about them instead. I thought that was interesting. Interesting tip.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Rich is asking about the changing in the algorithms. I don't know if you've got anything to say about that, Oliver, but basically the number of people that you can connect with every single week has reduced. There's all sorts of things that, I'm on top of some of it, but not all of it, because I'm not a LinkedIn trainer. I don't know if you can advise on any of the algorithm changes across any of the social media platforms.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
It changes all the time, doesn't it?
It's constantly a moving target. And 2 months ago it was reels and stories that were doing really, really well. But I think what they always try and do is they try and mix it up. They try and do something new, so that you're constantly creating the different types of content, so that you get different types of engagement. So I think it's always going to be a moving target. So it's going to constantly be out of date. If it's a month.
Yeah.
Or whatever, but who knows, unless you're quite happy in Facebook or LinkedIn, you're not going to know that until it's almost out of date in a way.
Yeah, I mean, some people claim to have moles, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether they're just making that up. And my daughter works at Samsung, and she's constantly going over to Facebook and having meetings with her. So maybe I can ask her to find out and see if we can share some tips. But
Yeah, awesome.
I mean, I think the main thing is that People, the big social media platforms, they are social and they want people to use it socially and to produce content that is creates engagement. So I think what they tend to do is I think they tend to penalize posts that are too salesy or too obviously pitchy, and that there'll be certain keywords that they can pick up. For example, I notice when I run a masterclass and I put masterclass or link below or something like that, that the reach it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't go very far. Whereas I did a crazy post the other day, and I just did it just to get some virality because I just sensed this would be like go viral. So it was actually saying, should 70s sitcoms be taken off TV because they're racist, or that they're they wouldn't be acceptable today? And that was just like I just threw it in there just to see what happened. Last time I looked, it was up to around 30,000 views on LinkedIn. So yeah, I mean, I think it's the important thing is just to experiment because, obviously that post had nothing to do with my business, but the reason why it's quite good sometimes to try and do something, do a bit of newsjacking or go a bit viral is because it brings a whole load of new people into your network and actually exposes you to them. So
I think the whole point that it was controversial as well, and it
yeah,
invited different opinions, which then going to stems off a lot of other conversation as well. So
yeah,
it's a question that invited people to actually engage with it, but it was controversial to the fact that people are going to have different opinions. So then
yes.
it's going to then people going to spend more time on that specific bit of content, and that's what does do well in the organic reach.
Yes, and thank you, Rajesh. He said, well done. I mean, we love talking about sort of virality, don't we, on our mastermind, because we're all kind of obsessed with marketing, really. But that is something definitely that we learned, and I think we all are aware of that this thing about polarity, and actually don't be too vanilla. If you can actually cause a debate or spark a debate, the important thing is not to kind of come down too heavy yourself in terms of the most controversial topics like politics, for example, because then you can obviously alienate clients, which you don't want to do. But talking about topics that are generally polarizing is a good thing to do, and it will bring fresh people into your network. So I saw one which I actually comment on a few times because it's obviously going a bit viral, which was, look, is it okay to insist that women wear stilettos for work as part of the dress code if, for example, it's in hospitality? And of course, there were people that said, well, yeah, that fair enough. If they don't like it, they don't need the job, they need to look smart and all the rest of it. And there was quite a lot of women that said, this is just absolutely insane. I cannot wear high heels for, more than kind of half an hour at a time without them totally just doing me in. So yeah, all of those things. So yeah, so just to get back to property now, what about people that are practicing different strategies, Oliver? Because there are lots and lots of different strategies, aren't there, in property? Would you like to talk about some of them for some of our viewers that might be and our listeners that might be less aware of how people actually make their money from property here in the UK?
Yeah, for sure. So there's loads and loads of different property strategies. There's obviously some most popular ones and common ones, but there's, as I mentioned, deal sourcing. Explained what that was and the importance of the brand and marketing in that. But there's things called rent to rent, which is effectively, you're renting a property from a landlord, and then you can rent that out on a company-let basis, not subletting, but actually on a professional company-let basis. And what's important there is majority of the properties, you can go direct to vendor, go direct to the owner of the property. That's also very common, but the majority, maybe 75% or whatever the number may be, but a large percentage of the leads that you're going to get of the properties are likely going to come from estate agents. So building up that relationship with an estate agent is key to be able to get those properties to be able to rent out, it could be on a single let basis, or it could be on what's called HMO, houses of multiple occupancy, where there could be each individual room is let out to a different tenant. So being able to actually get a property from a estate agent is really important, because it's ultimately going to be their neck on the line. They're the sort of last sort of person before the owner of the property, the vendor. And if your service falls down for whatever reason, they potentially could lose their client. So it's their money that could be lost. So they need to trust you as a rent to rent company let service, that you can deliver what you say, which is often guaranteed rent to the owner, and you can look after it completely hands off for a long period of time. So a lot of clients that we've worked with, they tell me, I'm going to these estate agents and I'm going in and telling them that I'm offering guaranteed rent. I can look after property, any maintenance issues, I can take care of it. But they'd say, no, sorry, we don't deal with company let businesses. And how can you get any experience without actually be given the opportunity? And they might say, we only work with this one particular company because they've got 5 years on their books, and we only deal with this company. So I had a client who came to me and said, I've been running my rent to rent business for 18 months, and agents always just push me away. So I sat down with him and really dissected, how it is that he's putting himself across to those agents. So we rebranded him. He originally had one of those template logos, and he didn't have marketing collateral to actually provide the estate agent. So we did such a simple thing of creating a professional brochure that was structured in a way that helped build up that trust and credibility in his service, because he did know what he was doing. He did obviously have that one property he was running. But in the eyes of the estate agent, he was just average Joe, who was someone who came from a course and didn't necessarily know what they were doing.
Yeah.
We created a brochure, and he was giving it out to estate agents and also sending it over via email if he was speaking to them on the phone. And for the estate agent, they got to know who he was, what his services were, what he's done in the past, showing his credibility in the property, that he's currently managing, what the references or testimonials are. And then in a short space of just 2 months, he was able to get 4 rent-to-rent properties, which is incredible. So prior to working with me, he didn't get any in 18 months. And then we enabled him to get 4 in 2 months.
Oh.
Over the space of 5 months, he got 7, which
amazing,
is incredible. And that was purely down to how he presented himself to estate agents and how they saw him as well. So such a simple thing can really make a huge difference in rent to rent as a service. But as I mentioned, there's so many different property strategies, and I could be here all night talking about about what you could be doing for each individual strategy. But yeah, it's crucial.
Yeah, and of course, estate agents, they're in the business of image. They are aware that they have to package up and market and present houses. So, I mean, they generally tend to be very image conscious, don't they? I mean, they come from that background. So as you said, if you're just turning up with nothing, nothing but a bit of a scruffy business card and, a T-shirt, and you're just trying to blag them, then of course they're not going to react that well, are they?
No, exactly.
Yeah. So I've got a friend who's in serviced accommodation. We haven't mentioned that, and that's a bit like when you do the rent to rent that we were talking about. So you rent a property from a landlord and then you let it out on a short-term basis, a bit like a mini hotel. That's serviced accommodation, isn't it? And he is very conscious of the fact that it really is a marketing business, isn't it? And I think he came into it from property. But of course, when you are renting out, apartments or whatever, on a short-term basis. You're continually having to market them, aren't you? He's found it very, very challenging. So any tips for anybody that has gone into serviced accommodation and is letting out properties on that basis?
Yeah, there's two ways of service accommodation. So there is the more wider house where you can have multiple people living at the same time, but it could also be the short stays in holiday homes.
Yeah.
And for that, it's important again to stand out, because there could be 16 flats or 16 homes
Yep.
that maybe in the area. So you've got to be able to attract them over other people's properties. And I think with that, it's really beneficial to again think about your brand and not necessarily just the logo, but actually what's in the property. So that could be it could be offering an actual more about thinking about their lifestyle when they're staying in your home. So it could be offering services like Netflix or an espresso machine, having a nice bouquet of flowers. So every time so it's creating that wow factor that's going to stand out in the eyes of someone scrolling through Airbnb or whatever. And again, it's not cutting corners in just taking a photo on your iPhone. It's actually spending a bit of money on professional photography, because it's going to really make your property look amazing, which is going to yield so much. It's going to have a fantastic ROI, return on investment, because it's going to really stand out on Airbnb over the 16 other properties that are on there. So yeah, it's thinking about different things, but putting the guest first rather than you and your property first. I think that's turning on its head is the important part, and thinking about them rather than yourself.
Yes, yes, and I mean, really, that's at the essence of all good marketing, isn't it? You've got to really approach it from the point of view of the client, who is the person that is paying the bills or basically putting the money in your pocket. They are, it is their needs, not yours, that should be paramount at all times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So some great points there, Oliver. So we've got Alex says there's abundance in the space. Differentiate yourself with your story to carve your piece of the market. There's enough to go around. A firm abundance belief. So Alex is big on mindset. Do you think mindset is important in terms of marketing? Do you think that sometimes people, they don't market themselves properly because they haven't got the right mindset? Maybe they've just got a mindset of scarcity. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the effort because secretly they don't believe in themselves. Does that come into it, do you think?
I definitely think so. I think that is a big part of it. And I hear a lot, I need to get my first deal before I can invest in marketing. Part of when I'm meeting, someone new, I go through a series of just questions and, seeing how important it is to them, marketing is to them. And a lot of the time, well, a fair amount of time, people say, it's not something that I need to do right now. It's maybe in 2 years' time. But I've got this problem now. I need to find investors. I need to find the properties. And if you actually took a step back and realized that if you employed a good marketing strategy now, that will get you what you need, and that will actually speed everything up a lot quicker than it is if you were then doing the same thing that is not working currently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think mindset is very important, and actually taking a step back, and looking at the bigger picture, and actually thinking about it properly as a business, as opposed to something that you just you're starting out your proper journey, or you've been doing it a few years, and you're wanting to scale it up. It's really focusing on a good image, good marketing strategy, because that's going to yield so much better results and speed everything up, and ultimately then you won't need to sell effectively because everyone's coming to you as opposed to you going out to everyone else.
Yes, yes. And of course, word of mouth, perception, recommendations, reviews, all of those things that other people say about you, that's all a part of marketing as well, isn't it, Oliver?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's everything from your emails to a story on Instagram to networking, actually face to face, that is marketing. So everything that you do, everything that you are profiling your business and your service, that is all marketing. So everything needs to be congruent, have that clarity in what it is the end goal is, and it all needs to be connected for sure.
Yeah. And of course, particularly when it comes to something like service accommodation, the reviews on Airbnb, for example, they're everything really, aren't they? They're so important.
They really are make or break. And if you do have one, I don't know about yourself, but if I'm buying something on Amazon or if I'm looking at an Airbnb, I'm actually scrolling to see the ones that are the bad reviews, because
Yeah.
you may have 4 stars. So I want to find the ones that are the bad reviews. Bad reviews. You don't want to have someone say, "Oh yeah, the place was okay, good location, but they didn't have any towels. They didn't have any spare towels, or
Yeah.
the mark on the bed sheet, or I felt like I was sort of hindering." If they felt something, they're going to put it down, and bad news travels a lot faster and further than good news, unfortunately. So you always want to stay focused on your reviews for sure. Keep them high, and keep everyone happy.
Yeah, and keep an eye on them as well, because I mean, hotels, for example. I mean, I look at hotels. I haven't actually been away for a while because of lockdown and all the rest of it. But I remember when I used to book hotels and I used to look at hotel reviews, and as you said, you'd scroll down and you're like, oh no, they said the place was really dirty when they moved in, and it was, there were cockroaches in the shower, and that's really horrible. And then sometimes you just read those reviews and there'd be no comeback from the management, but sometimes there'd be, yes, this was a real problem in August 2018. Fortunately, we managed to tackle this, and we sent you to the wrong apartment, which was pre the major clean or something like that. And then you're like, oh phew, that's okay then. So it's very, very important just to keep an eye on basically what are people saying about you. If people go to Google, what will they find? Will they find pictures of you falling over drunk when you were 18 at university, or will they find some very professional looking websites and images and photographs and social media profiles and all of those kind of things? It's your footprint, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And you're completely right. And it's how you deal with, if there was something that bad happened, it's how you deal with that and actually do yourself favors for you, as opposed to being a negative thing. And I think everyone is seeking, especially if you're about to invest into something or buy something, you are seeking that sort of what it is that you're investing into. So you're doing your due diligence on everything. So yeah, how you're coming across, how you're dealing with yourself is all part of that marketing process.
Yeah. So we've talked about brochures, websites, business cards, face-to-face, reputation management, social media. We haven't really talked much about marketing funnels and automation and digital assets. Do you think those are underutilized, shall I say, in the property business? Or do you think some people are using them really well and a lot of people, other people need to wake up? What's your view?
Definitely the wake up. The amount of people that I speak to that don't know about it, which is fine. You're not expected to know about marketing if you're not in the industry. But the people that are using it, they're really utilizing it, because you can connect it with everything else, from social media to actually getting in front of someone and then channeling them through into your own funnel, so that you can capture the details. You could create a lead generation campaign, but it goes back to being able to offer something to someone. So you're there to really grab them, but they're not going to do it for free, so they're going to want something in return. So yeah, when I'm speaking to clients and they aren't aware of it, it's something that takes a little bit of time for them to understand it and realize the power in it. And once they do, that it's sort of no looking back for them, because they're the ones that are, again, different in the industry, because I don't think many property investors see it as an important part of their business, because it's property, right? It's the actual house, or it's the flat, or it's the building
Yeah,
that
that's
is
what they think.
actually thinking about grabbing potential investors. So yeah, the ones that are doing it are doing very well from it. But when I'm speaking to clients, it takes a little bit of time for them to understand the power in it, and when they do, it takes huge. They see huge results from it.
Yeah. Well, listen, Oliver, it's been an absolutely fascinating and amazing chat with you tonight. I've really, really enjoyed it. So if people want to get in touch with you, where do you hang out? Where's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. And for everyone that wants to find me, Oliver James, you can find me on Facebook. But also, it's nice and easy. We do property branding. So our website is www.propertybranding.co.uk, and on Instagram we're at property branding. So hopefully nice and easy for people to find us.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again. And I hope that everybody that's listened in, whether it's live or on replay or watched on YouTube or listened on the podcast, I hope you found this episode really valuable and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.